all over Twitter and Facebook, especially with, the Days fans, we're seeing pictures of you with Joseph Mascolo and Teo Penglis and all the different co-stars from your time at Days of Our Lives at the big 50th anniversary gala. What was the experience of the gala like for you?
It was more than I ever dreamed it can be. I was so touched and so honored to get the invitation. I mean, everybody realizes that I was on the show over 30 years ago, and I think this past January, like 5th or something, was actually my 35th year of my first broadcast. So even then, it was like 34 years since I had been on Days. So to be remembered by the production company and Ken Corday and Greg Ming and everybody, to be invited was a huge honor. And then when I got there and I got to see so many of the people that I had worked with, both who were still on the show and others who had come and gone, who were at the party, it was just such a delight and so much fun. Words can almost not express how joyous an occasion it was. And to totally see Joe Mascolo again and, to get a hug from him and for him to tell me that he loved me and loved working with me, it meant everything. And to see Bill and Susan again and Deidre and, of course, Teo and Leanne and, oh, my gosh, the list just goes on. Suzanne and Gloria Loring and everybody. It was fabulous.
It was, and you were there with Greg Marks as your date, and of course people remember Greg Marks from playing David Banning, Renee's husband, for a while. Had you guys been keeping in touch, or was that the first time you'd been together in a while? Or
no, that's why he wasn't mentioned in the barrage of people that I was so excited to see, because Greg and I have managed to stay friends all of these years. We don't see each other that often, but we talk on the phone or email, and he has become quite the singer and really loves to perform in and around L.A. So when I can, I go out to see him perform as well. So, yeah, we stayed in touch, and it's been a great friendship through all of these years. And we just thought when we both got the invitation, what fun it would be to go together. And it was perfect.
I wanted to ask, we see a lot of pictures from Renee's big exit. Nobody had had such a dramatic, wonderful, last episode like Renee did. And aside from that, what was your favorite storyline from Days?
It's really too tough because I got to work with so many wonderful people, and I just think the writers at that time for Renee were really terrific, except for deciding to kill her off. What can I say?
Yeah.
But hey, what a send-off they gave Renee. I mean, for somebody or people to have saved that and now, put that up on YouTube has been amazing. That, again, 33 years later, people who weren't even born are now contacting me somehow and telling me that they loved watching that and they still watch it. And I'm getting quote-unquote new fans who I never dreamed I would have because they weren't even born yet. So what an incredible thing, that YouTube and all of this new media has provided us with. I loved working with Bill and Susan Hayes and Brenda Benet when I first came on the show. What powerhouses to be among and working with, and then it transitioned to Teo and to Joe Mascolo and the whole DeMira family. So that was terribly exciting and refreshing and challenging, and the whole thing with Ben, the marriage to David Banning, and working with Greg Marks so closely, and getting back to working with Bill and Susan a little bit, and then finally the send-off. I mean, how can I pick just one? It was just such a glorious time, and just so many wonderfully challenging opportunities and fabulous actors to work with.
Well, I'm so grateful that those episodes, what does exist is on YouTube. I mean, I really, all the time I wish there were more of the Renee, Tony, Anna storyline, because I remember watching that storyline and just being completely, into it. And so more of that. I'd love to. If someone has some of that footage somewhere, please. But it's fabulous. It's great that people can rediscover the characters from back then, including Renee, of course, and it's really wonderful. You mentioned Brenda Benet, and it was a real tragedy with what happened to her on Days when she took her life. How did that affect you guys on the set when that happened?
Well, it was gut-wrenching. That's the best way to put it. Back then, we were only 2 weeks ahead of the storyline. So this came completely out of the blue and a shock to everyone, and including the writers, and it was so heartbreaking that it couldn't be ignored. It couldn't just be that she doesn't show up anymore, or just in passing, the character or some character says, oh, Lee left town. So for them to come up with what they did for the storyline, I think was wonderful, with Marlena showing up to the cabin, and Tony and Renee had just gotten engaged and were so thrilled, and for her to show up at the cabin with that package, with the letter and the locket and the journal from Lee, saying that Stefano DiMiro was Renee's father, and therefore she and Tony were brother and sister, and, were half brother and sister, and could never be together, and just the whole devastation. So it was not only the conclusion of Renee's relationship with Tony, but also Lee telling her goodbye. And through that letter that was so beautifully written, that was shared, quote unquote, out loud by Marlena, through Renee's request to read it out loud. And all I've got to say is I thank the writers at that time for not making me read that out loud, because I probably could never have gotten through it. Those tears that you saw, in that scene were just so genuine and so heartfelt. It's not that, when our characters cry or we're upset about something, the tears then are genuine too, but this took it to a whole nother level. And, it took everybody a long time to get over it. And to a certain degree, I'm still not over it today. It was just so shocking and so tragic, and everybody just felt so helpless that, really reach out, and we didn't know how to reach out to her at that time, or how much that was really truly needed.
Well, they certainly did the best they could with those circumstances, to make it work along with the story, and a very sad time. So I do want to ask, and I don't know, I'll get it right from you because you would know. I want to know if this is a soap opera legend or really a fact. I had heard that when Renee, with the whole thing with the first death, of the Salem slasher, of Renee's death, that the Days cast actually had to pick a name out of a hat or something to pick who would be the one that would get killed off. Is that true?
Oh, that's so funny. I have never, ever, ever heard that.
Okay, so that's a total fallacy.
I don't know where it came from. I will say it was a total shock to me, and at the time what was told is, 4 months before I was killed off, I was told that, the powers that be loved me and I could have a home there for as long as I wanted it. And then I heard a rumor one day that my character was going to be killed off, so I marched up to Al Rabin's office, who was, the executive in charge at the time, and I just flat out asked him. I said, is this rumor true? What's going on? And he said, yeah, true. And what I was told, now, again, I don't know if it was for my benefit or to make me feel better or what the real reason was, but supposedly they said it was for ratings, that they needed to kill off a character that really meant something to the show and it would perpetuate a murder mystery for months down the road. And, I guess because, my character was, or seemingly, I don't know if I want to say big, but important or, had a great deal of interest at the time that they chose my character. I don't know if anybody will ever really know the truth, but that's what was told to me. But that's just very funny that picking a name out of a hat. I've never, ever heard that before.
I don't remember where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere. But, back
funny.
then, if the character was killed off, they were killed off. If you're stabbed in the back, you're stabbed in the back. But, of course, that sort of did springboard the whole thing with Stefano coming back from the dead over and over and over. And then Tony DeMiro and Andre DeMiro would come back from the dead over and over and over. So, who knows? Maybe Renee would, maybe it turned out her death was fake somehow. And if they ever were to ask you back on days as Renee, what kind of story would you like to see for her?
Well, I'm not one to be a writer, but, to make it a little feasible, I guess, I think what might be fun, of course, if I was asked back, I would love to come back. I think it would just be delicious to be on the show again, and hopefully they would pit me definitely against Andre, so it would be fun to work with Teo again. But realistically, as unrealistic as possible, I guess, maybe that they never knew that Renee had a twin sister. And somehow when the decision was made that the family kept one and shipped the other twin to a relative or to somebody, a family in Europe. And she's been in Europe this whole time and somehow finds out that what really happened and that Andre was the one that killed her twin sister Renee. And it would be fun, I think, for this twin to come back and maybe wreak some havoc and try to get revenge on who murdered her sister.
She could be Renee's ghost and freak Andre out.
That's true, too.
That'd be fun. There we
go.
That's
true, too. There are so many different ways to go. I sincerely hope Days is picked up again, and maybe I will be given that opportunity to come back and have some fun. That would just be delightful. So for everybody listening out there, start the campaign. We want Renee back or whatever.